Chapter 60. The Old Chief's Sermon.
The well was now finished. The place was neatly fenced in, and the old chief said,
"Missi, I think I could help you next Sabbath. Will you let me preach a sermon on the well?"
"Yes," I at once replied, "if you will try to bring all the people to hear you."
"Missi, I will try,"
he eagerly promised. The news spread like wildfire that the Chief Namakei was to be missionary on the next day for the worship, and the people, under great expectancy, urged each other to come and hear what he had to say. Sabbath came round. Aniwa assembled in what was for that island a great crowd. Namakei appeared dressed in shirt and kilt. He was so excited and flourished his tomahawk about at such a rate that it was rather lively work to be near him. I conducted short opening devotions and then called upon Namakei. He rose at once, with eye flashing wildly and his limbs twitching with emotion. He spoke to the following effect, swinging his tomahawk to enforce every eloquent gesticulation.
"Friends of Namakei, men and women and children of Aniwa, listen to my words. Since Missi came here, he has talked many strange things we could not understand, things all too wonderful, and we said regarding many of them that they must be lies. White people might believe such nonsense, but we said that the black fellow knew better than to receive it. But of all his wonderful stories, we thought the strangest was about sinking down through the earth to get rain. Then we said to each other, 'The man's head is turned, he's gone mad.' But the Missi prayed on and wrought on, telling us that Jehovah God heard and saw, and that his God would give him rain. Was he mad? Has he not got the rain deep down in the earth? We mocked at him, but the water was there all the same. We have laughed at other things which the Missi told us because we could not see them. But from this day, I believe that all he tells us about his Jehovah God is true. Someday our eyes will see it, for today we have seen the rain from the earth."
Then rising to a climax, first the one foot and then the other making the broken coral on the floor fly behind like a warhorse pawing the ground, he cried with great eloquence,
"My people, the people of Aniwa, the world is turned upside down since the word of Jehovah came to this land. Whoever expected to see rain coming up through the earth? It has always come from the clouds. Wonderful is the work of this Jehovah God. No God of Aniwa ever answered prayers as the Missi's God has done. Friends of Namakei, all the powers of the world could not have forced us to believe that rain could be given from the depths of the earth if we had not seen it with our eyes, felt it and tasted it as we here do. Now, by the help of Jehovah God, the Missi brought that invisible rain to view, which we never before heard of or saw. And something here in my heart tells me that the Jehovah God does exist, the invisible one, whom we never heard of nor saw till the Missi brought him to our knowledge. The quarrel has been removed, the land has been cleared away, and lo, the water rises. Invisible till this day, yet all the same it was there, though our eyes were too weak. So I, your chief, do now firmly believe that when I die, when the bits of coral and the heaps of dust are removed, which now blind my old eyes, I shall then see the invisible Jehovah God with my soul, as Missi tells me, not less surely than I have seen the rain from the earth below. From this day, my people, I must worship the God who has opened for us the well and who fills us with rain from below. The gods of Aniwa cannot hear, cannot help us like the God of Missi. Henceforth I am a follower of Jehovah God. Let every man that thinks with me go now and fetch the idols of Aniwa, the gods which our fathers feared, and cast them down at Missi's feet. Let us burn and bury and destroy these things of wood and stone, and let us be taught by the Missi how to serve God who can hear. The Jehovah who gave us the well, and who will give us every other blessing, for he sent his son Jesus to die for us and bring us to heaven. This is what the Missi has been telling us every day since he landed on Aniwa. We laughed at him, but now we believe him. The Jehovah God has sent us rain from the earth. Why should he not also send us his Son from heaven, Namakei stands up for Jehovah.
This address and the sinking of the well broke the back of heathenism on Aniwa. That very afternoon, the old chief and several of his people brought their idols and cast them down at my feet beside the door of our house. Oh, the intense excitement of the weeks that followed. Company after company came to the spot, loaded with their gods of wood and stone, and piled them up in heaps amid the tears and sobs of some and the shoutings of others, in which was heard the oft-repeated word, Jehovah, Jehovah. What could be burned we cast into the flames, others we buried in pits 12 or 15 feet deep, and some few, more likely than the rest to feed or awaken superstition, we sank far out into the deep sea. Let no heathen eyes ever gaze on them again. One of the very first steps in Christian discipline, to which they readily and almost unanimously took, was the asking of God's blessing on every meal, and praising the great Jehovah for their daily bread. Whosoever did not do so was regarded as a heathen. Query, how many white heathens are there? The next step, and it was taken in a manner as if by some common consent that was not less surprising than joyful, was a form of family worship, every morning and evening. Doubtless the prayers were often very queer and mixed up with many remaining superstitions, but they were prayers to the great Jehovah, the compassionate Father, the invisible one, no longer to gods of stone. Necessarily these were the conspicuous features of our life as Christians in their midst, morning and evening family prayer, and grace at meat, and hence, most naturally, their instinctive adoption and imitation of the same as the first outward tokens of Christian discipline. Every house in which there was not prayer to God in the family was known thereby to be heathen. This was a direct and practical evidence of the new religion, and, so far as it goes, and that is very far indeed, where there is any sincerity beneath it, the test was one about which there could be no mistake on either side. A third conspicuous feature stood out distinctly and at once, the change as to the Lord's Day. Village after village followed in this also the example of the mission house. All ordinary occupation ceased. Sabbath was spoken of as the day for Jehovah. Saturday came to be called Cooking Day, referring to the extra preparations for the coming day of rest and worship. They believed that it was Jehovah's will to keep the first day holy. The reverse was a distinctive mark of heathenism. The first traces of a new social order began to rise visibly on the delighted eye. The whole inhabitants, young and old, now attended school, 3 generations sometimes at the one copy or a BC book. Thefts, quarrels, crimes, etc. were settled now, not by club law, but by fine or bonds or lash, as agreed upon by the chiefs and their people. Everything was rapidly and surely becoming new under the influence of the leaven of Jesus. Industry increased. Huts and plantations were safe. Formerly every man, in travelling, carried with him all his valuables. Now they were secure, left at home. Even a brood of fowls or a litter of pigs would be carried in bags on their person in heathen days. Hence, at church, we had sometimes lively episodes, the chirruping of chicks, the squealing of piggies, and the barking of puppies, one gaily responding to the other, as we sang or prayed or preached the gospel. Being glad to see the natives there, even with all their belongings, we carefully refrained from finding fault. But the thread of devotion was sometimes apt to slip through one's fingers, especially when the conflict of the owner to silence a baby pig inspired the little wretch to drown everything in a long-sustained and high-pitched scream. The natives, finding this state of matters troublesome to themselves and disagreeable all round, called a general assembly, unanimously condemned dishonesty, agreed upon severe fines and punishments for every act of theft, and covenanted to stand by each other in putting it down. The chiefs, however, found this a long and difficult task, but they held at it under the inspiration of the gospel and prevailed. Even the trials and difficulties with which they met were overruled by God, in assisting them to form, by the light of their own experience, a simple code of social laws, fitted to repress the crimes there prevailing and to encourage the virtues specially needing to be cultivated there. Heathen worship was gradually extinguished, and though no one was compelled to come to church, every person on Aniwa, without exception, became ere many years an avowed worshipper of Jehovah God. Again, O Galilean, thou hast conquered.
This was chapter 60 of the story of John G. Paton. You can listen to the full audiobook on scrollreader.com.